There's 4 things that we want to discover. Firstly is this: when vision fails, fear strikes. In verse 15 we read, "When the servant of the man of God got up and went out early in the morning, an army with horses and chariots had surrounded the city. 'Oh, my Lord, what shall we do?' the servant asked." This is probably not, if you read back a previous chapter, this is probably not the servant Gehazi. It's probably a different servant. Gehazi has been struck with leprosy. He's probably died. If not died, he's certainly unfit to be a servant with leprosy. So this is a new kid on the block. This is a new servant. He hasn't seen Elisha's miracles. He's heard of them by reputation. But now all of a sudden, he sort of goes out to wash down the donkey as you do in the morning, get the engine running, do all that kind of thing, looks up and thinks, okay, back away slowly. Don't make any sudden moves. Things have changed. Elisha, what are we going to do? More to the point, what are you going to do? I don't know if you've ever been afraid. Has anyone ever been afraid here? When you're afraid, you don't always think of all the spiritual sermons and things that you've heard through life. We once had a meal with friends of ours in South Africa, and we were visiting with them, and it was lovely. And Steve and I, my friend, were sitting with our backs to the dining room wall, and his wife and Karen and Barbie were sitting opposite. And as we're chatting, both of them looked up just left of me, and went white and got up from the table and started to move away. And I thought, now, okay, I had garlic, but it wasn't that bad, what's going on here? And I turned my head around, and as I did, I saw this on the wall. And that, my friends, is a baboon spider. A baboon spider is about maybe just fractionally smaller than my hand outstretched. It's part of the tarantula family. And they really exist. They're native to the continent of Africa. And, of course, it's about a foot away from my ear, which I have ears that are tempting to small birds and animals to nest in, you understand. With ears like these, I was just doomed to be bullied at school. But there you are. And so I looked, and Steve and I got up very carefully. Now, I'd never seen one of these before. So the first thing I say, well, is it poisonous? Now, friends, does that look poisonous to you? Is it poisonous? Yes. Will it kill me? No one seemed to know, but I've done a bit of research since then, and actually a baboon spider very rarely kills somebody, but it will make you very ill. You don't want to be bitten by one of these. So my friend Steve runs and he gets 2 things. He brings back a spade and a cricket bat. He says, here's the plan. Said, right, what's the plan? Hoping he's going to give me the spade. He says, I'm going to hit it with the spade, but if I miss, you need to hit it with a cricket bat. Now, I am thinking, 1, if you miss, that means this thing can move pretty quickly. Secondly, if you miss, you're just going to make it angry. And I know you're going to run away and leave me with this cricket bat to try and bat this thing all over the lounge. Well, I just want you to know, friends, it ended well, but not for the spider. But at that moment, because I encountered something that was unusual and outside of my realm of experience, I was scared. I wasn't rigidly scared, but I was scared. Barbie is arachnophobic. She was bitten by a spider when she was young. She has a scar from a wound that wouldn't heal. And she actually was petrified and unsettled the rest of the evening. In fact, talked about it, as I remember, for a few days afterwards, just seeing this nice baboon spider there. See, when we're afraid, we forget that there is a different perspective. We tend to live in the moment. There's a thing called the fight or flight reflex, and if you're involved in the medical profession, you'll understand this better than I would. I've just done a bit of research the last few weeks just to look at it. But there is this thing called the fight or flight reflex. You see, fear can be paralyzing, and when that reflex is activated, we discover that, and what we understand is that sequences of nerve cell firing occur, that chemicals in our body release like adrenaline, and basically all sorts of physiological changes happen. Our respiratory rate begins to increase. In other words, we breathe deeply. Blood is shunted away from our digestive tract and is moved to our arms and our legs because we might have to fight or flight. Our pupils dilate. Our awareness intensifies. Everything seems to happen in slow motion. But our impulses quicken. Our perception of pain diminishes because if we're going to fight, then we don't want to feel the pain. All these chemicals moving around our body. Our immune system mobilizes to a greater extent because it wants to heal wounds. And we become prepared physically and physiologically to fight or flight. But the interesting thing is that when that is activated within us, we lose all rational thought. We don't then think through the situation. We don't become a hostage negotiator or anything like that because we are then geared towards our own personal survival. This state of alert causes us to perceive almost everything as a threat to our survival. It causes us to perceive everything as a threat to us. And we begin to see how it can be almost impossible in a situation where fear has gripped us, where something has happened to us, where we're now battling to actually begin to see things rationally. In fact, we begin to repeat patterns in our life. We may not intentionally do this, but if we've been wounded in the past, and that's a fear for us now, if we've been wounded by a relationship, then when a relationship of a similar kind occurs in our life, for no apparent reason, all those physiological things can start coming back. The increased heart rate, and it's not out of romance, it's out of the clamminess, the adrenaline rush. If we've been bullied at school and we encounter a bully later on in life, we may not be able to deal with it in the workplace because I don't understand it. I'm a grown adult, and yet this person, just when I'm around them, I just freeze. I seize up. When things happen in my life that seem to be a reminder, and it may not be that we consciously, and I'm not going to get into the psychology of all this, but we may not consciously remember the thing that triggered that for us, but we end up repeating out of our control the physiological patterns in our life because our perspective is limited and we need to change our perspective. You all have pencils with you. If you want to lift up your pencil, just to prove you got your pencil, do remember you get to take this home with you, and we're going to look at this several times in the next 4 or 5 hours or so. But, if you would do me a favor, if you could look down your pencils like this. Everyone gets to do this together. Those of you who aren't doing this, just proving, disobedience. That's fine. No. If you look down your pencil like this, you actually can't see much of the pencil at all. Or you might have an idea that it's a bit longer because you have 2 eyes looking at one pencil. But if you focus on the nib of that pencil, well, that's like the moments in our life. See, our perspective is really on the very tip of that. And I haven't sharpened these down, so some of you that are older have got shorter pencils because this represents our life. We've all got the same life today. Isn't that great? All right. But if you look down that, our perspective is where we can see the tip. You see, we end up living in a moment, a point in time, a point where actually our perspective ends up centered around just that one thing. I'm going to come back to our pencils in a little while. You see, when vision fails, when we forget that there is an eternal perspective, what happens is fear rises. Fear can grip us.